This is Jen. Jen is a religious woman who lives in a simple rented house with her small family. Her husband, who is unemployed and loves to gamble, is named Spencer. His only son was named Alex. They make a mediocre living by relying on Jen's job as a jewelry store clerk. At work, Jen feels uncomfortable because she has a womanizer boss. One day the jewelry store where Jen works comes a female customer who turns out to be an old friend of Jen. Her name is Rika. While chatting with Jen, Rika chooses some jewelry to buy. At that time Rika also offered Jen a job at the resort owned by her old lover. But it's rich. Hearing the offer, Jen just smiled at Rika. The next night an unpleasant event occurred in which he was treated indecently by his superiors. Calling her husband who was gambling turned out to make Jen even more heartbroken. Finally, he decided to call Rika, after dressing Rika in her apartment. Jen is then invited to have fun at the disco. There the intimacy of the two women even becomes excessive, to the point that they almost do things they shouldn't. When Jen came home, she was asked for money by her husband who reasoned that he wanted to repair his motorcycle. Not only that, Spencer also asked for a ration to make out with Jen. Jen's misfortune did not stop that night. How surprised the beautiful woman was when she saw her son Alex unconscious in the room. She and Spencer take Alex to the hospital. Upon examination, doctors said that Alex showed early symptoms of leukemia. Jen gets dizzy when she finds out her husband owes money to a gang of thugs. Jen and Spencer rob the jewelry store where Jen works. There Jen is again unlucky because her disguise was discovered by the boss. Meanwhile, Spencer who was waiting outside escaped alone. Upon learning their mission failed, Jen is caught red-handed about to rob, cornered by her boss's wife. Luckily Rika suddenly shows up there and threatens to watch the store owner for treating Jen indecently. Eventually both sides agreed not to extend their troubles. Since she can no longer work in a jewelry store, Jen accepts Rika's job offer the other day. One night, Rika introduces Jen to her boyfriend Santos. The man is the owner of the resort where Jen will later work. Santos explains that there is an exclusive community for wealthy men who are hungry for young girls. Later Jen will serve these people. At the end of the explanation Santos advised Jen not to fall in love with her client. The next day Jen lies to Spencer that she got a job at a discotheque. Jen's first customer was a 60-year-old man. Although hesitant to work like that, Jen finally decided to do it solely for the sake of the child. To facilitate her work, Jen decides to stay with Rika. While packing her things at her previous rented house, Jen is blocked by Spencer when Rika comes to Jen's aid and beats Spencer to death. The next morning, Jen wakes up in the hospital and learns from Rika that Spencer has died. The woman said Spencer was killed by thugs. After they leave the rented house, Jen was also devastated. Sometime later, the son began to recover. Because Jen has a lot of money, it automatically makes Alex's treatment run smoothly. At the resort where Jen works, it turns out that she serves not only men, but also lonely rich women. Therefore they also recruit young men to serve such women. One of them was named Eric. One day Jen sees him sitting alone and invites him to chat. Eric's friendly and polite attitude makes Jen comfortable with him. Gradually Jen enjoys her work so much that she has many customers and a fantastic salary. The longer Jen has known Rika, the more she knows if her best friend is interested in her. And perhaps because he feels indebted to her, Jen willingly serves him in bed. Meanwhile, to please herself, Jen chooses to go on a date with Eric. One day Jen accidentally gets acquainted with a woman named Mara. She turns out to be Eric's wife. The woman said her husband was a police officer. Despite the heartbreak of knowing that, Jen still tries to be professional when Mara pays her to have a threesome with Eric. After receiving services from Jen, Eric also explains that he is an undercover cop and wants to catch Santos' girlfriend Rika. Here Jen plays as if she knows nothing. The next day Jen immediately reported all that to Rika, and then a few days later Jen got a call from Mara who was looking for her husband. The woman said Eric hadn't been home for days. When Jen wants to meet Rika in her apartment by accident, she witnesses her best friend along with Santos and his men planning to kill someone. Jen also realizes that they are the masterminds of Eric's disappearance and Spencer's death. Jen then sneaks into the bathroom and finds Eric tied up there. Without wasting any time, Jen immediately let go. Soon a group of policemen arrived who immediately arrested Santos for conspiring, including rich men and young girls at the resort. Meanwhile, in Rika's apartment, there is a shootout that leads to the death of Rika herself and Santos. Because yesterday Jen claimed not to know Santos, Eric also told her to run away with a bag of money. On the same night with her son Alex, Jen immediately moved to another city. In that city Jen and Alex start a new life. One day at Alex's birthday party, Eric suddenly appears to Jen knowing that Eric is now a widower after being left for dead by his wife. It seems that the arrival of the man wanted to pick up his love for Jen.